Alright, so another Kubota video here. Most of y'all that's watched my channel for a while know that I had a ZD1021. Well, I no longer have a ZD1021. I now have a ZD1211. The ZD1021 didn't work out for me. It had a hydraulic issue. It would, after you operated it for about an hour and a half, the hydraulic oil would overheat. I have picture documentation of that. Took pictures of the temperature while I was taking the temperature of the transmission. It was about 215 degrees. If any of y'all know anything about hydraulic oil, about 180 to 190 is about as far as you want to take hydraulic oil. After that, try to get it out of the sun so much here. After that, the viscosity of it gets so low, it doesn't function in a pump as well. A pump can't push it around as easy because it's so thin. So I kept having trouble with when I first got the machine. The very first time I used it, after I run it for a while, the deck would no longer raise with any type of urgency. I mean, you'd mash the pedal and it would just barely raise the deck up. So I called the dealer about it, and they said they would look at it. And they did. They took it back, and they told me that the bolts that hold the deck on were too tight. Okay, so they loosened the bolts up. They said 16 rounds is what they loosened them. I thought, wow, must have been extremely tight. Well, when I get the machine back and start using it, it didn't do any better. After an hour and a half of mowing, then it went back to doing the same. The deck wouldn't raise. I also noticed at the same time that the longer you run the mower, the more noise that you could hear from the hydrostats and the more vibration you could feel in the handles. So I was thinking it's probably all related. Now, this is before I knew anything about the temperature of the oil. This was well before that, because I wasn't trying to fix it myself to start with, so I wasn't doing any diagnosis. So I call them back and I tell them it's still doing it, and they said, well, we'll have to bring it back in and we'll actually come get it this time. I live an hour away. So I was like, okay, well, that's good of you. So they come get it. They talked to Kubota, and they decide that the charge pressure may be too low on it. Oh, well, that sounds like it's probably a good thing to check out. So they decided it was too low, and they turned it up a little bit. So I don't know how much they turned it up or what the pressures are supposed to be. I don't have a book. But anyway, they turned it up and sent it back to me. Well, I mow with it for an hour and a half, and the deck is still raising like it ought to. So I keep mowing, put it up, get it out the next time. Oh, and I did realize that the deck bolts that they had loosened, they were starting to fall out. They were carriage bolts, and they had the square shoulder. They had the rounded head with the square shoulder, and they went up in a square hole. They had wiggled out of their square holes, and the nuts were just barely started onto the bolts. So I decided to snug those back up. I don't know why they loosened them that much. I mean, I know those bolts, those square shoulders should be up in the square holes. So I just snugged them a little bit. I didn't tighten them. They had lock nuts. I just pulled them back up into their square holes. I would have thought that the mechanic would have known better than that, but apparently not. Anyway, where was I at? Oh, I put it up that time. Well, I get it out the next time, And I mow, and everything's going good, and I can raise the deck if I need to. Well, I get close to being done mowing the yard, and I raised the deck this one time, and all of a sudden the PTO cuts out, the deck PTO. I hear it slow down, you know, the mowing deck's running, and I hit the lever, and all of a sudden the deck goes, and then speeds back up. And I thought, now that's strange. Well, from then on, every time after you run the mower, about an hour and a half, if you needed to raise the mowing deck, the PTO would start shutting off. It wouldn't shut completely off, but it would shut about half off, and the speed of the deck you could hear it slow down, and then it would speed back up after you let off the pedal, which you're not supposed to hold the pedal down for a very long time. It doesn't say how long you can hold it down, but it says don't hold it down for extended periods. So I would never hold it down over like 2 or 3 seconds at a time when I used it. But anyway, that's beside the point. I call them and tell them that I waited till the next spring, because mowing season was basically over. I waited the next spring, and I called them and I told them, and they told me, she told me, the service manager, she said, well, there's probably not anything we can do about that. So I thought, well, you know, that's not good, because that's going to cause my PTO clutch to wear out prematurely, you know, and I didn't want that to happen. So that's when I started calling Kubota. I called because she basically told me, she said, there's not anything we can do about it, and there's no use even looking at it. So that's when I called Kubota corporate. They told me I had to deal with it at the dealer level, so they weren't any help. And it was the complaint department that I called, and they told me they couldn't do anything about it. I had to settle at the dealer level. But they did tell me to get in contact with their service representative. So I had to call the dealer to tell the dealer to get them to have the service representative to contact me. Corporate wouldn't do that. I had to call the dealer to do it. So I called the dealer. I did that. I told the service manager, said, I'm not happy with your answer. You know, something's wrong with this thing, and we need to figure out what it is, and I'd like to speak with your service representative. So they did get me in contact with him, and he called and he asked me a whole lot of questions about raising the deck and stuff. And the deck on that mower had wheels that were turned straight. They didn't have casters like this mower right here. It has the exact same deck on this mower, which I hate this freaking ACS deck, but this one has casters on it. The deck that I had on my 1021 did not have casters on it, and they just stayed straight forwards all the time. Well, if you set them properly, you're supposed to park it on concrete or asphalt, and you're supposed to set the wheels 3/4 of an inch above the asphalt, concrete, whatever the hard surface is you park it on. Well, if you do that, and then you mow grass at, whatever height I'm mowing it at, 2.5, 3 inches, with the wheels set correctly at that mowing height, when you would turn that mower around, if the ground wasn't perfectly level, one of them wheels would dig into the ground and cut a furrow in the yard. Well, I don't want furrows cut in my yard. So I got in the habit of, when I would turn that mower around, I would raise the deck. Just set my foot on it. How long does it take to turn a zero mower around? 2 seconds. raise the deck up for 2 seconds, let off, mow for a couple minutes, raise the deck up, turn around, you know. Well, I told him that, and he said, well, that's your problem. You're using you can't use the deck raise like that. And I thought, well, it says you can't. He says momentary use, and that is momentary use. He said, yeah, but that's wouldn't be considered momentary use, so you don't need to be doing that. So I thought, okay. He said, that's probably what's causing the problem. So I thought, okay, so I bought a $12,000 lawnmower with hydraulic deck raise, and now you're telling me not to use the deck raise as I needed. So what I ended up doing was, I ended up raising the wheels, the scalp wheels, all the way up so they couldn't touch the ground, so I could leave the mowing deck down. Well, that caused more scalping, of course. But anyway, I wasn't gouging in the ground when I turned around, so I would turn the mower around and I wouldn't ever raise the mowing deck up. Well, I could mow for 2 hours and not raise the deck up, but I could still feel in the hydrostats all the vibration, extra vibration going on. And I didn't like that. I knew it was still something wrong, and something is not right with this thing, because it doesn't do it for the first hour and a half. So I get to thinking, wonder what's causing it. I wonder if it's heat related. So I got out one of those infrared thermometers, and I started carrying it with me. And when I start noticing the problem, I would check the temperature of the transmission, and it was always over 200 degrees when the problem would start. And 215 was what it would get to by the time I was done mowing my yard, and I don't have any doubt in my mind that it would keep climbing if I kept mowing. And that mower, that particular mower, does not have an external or a hydraulic oil cooler. All it has is a fan blowing on the hydrostat, and it's aluminum. Well, the 1211 has an oil cooler up there in front of the radiator, and that's what that 1021 needs too. In my opinion, all of them need that. It's a hydrostatic transmission, and it's working hard, and it's in hot environment. That, you know, it needs a cooler on it, in my opinion. Why they didn't put one on it, I don't know. Anyway, I can't. They wouldn't give me the number to the representative, so I called the dealer back, told the service manager what I found, and she said, well, we'll just have to bring it in and let the representative look at it. And I did try raising the deck. After I didn't raise the deck the whole time I mowed, but once I got close to being done mowing, I raised the deck just to see if the PTO would shut off, and it still would. And the temperature, without raising the deck any, was still getting well over 200 degrees. So I take it back. They keep it for 3 weeks. I finally call to see what's going on, and she said, oh, we can't get it to do anything. It doesn't do what you're saying it's doing. So, well, how long did you run it? And of course I explained how long it took. So how long did you run it? Oh, we run it 20 minutes. I said, well, 20 minutes, it don't get hot enough to mess up. So she said, well, how long? I said, well, I told you it takes an hour and a half. And she said, oh, okay. Well, we ain't got time to run it no hour and a half. And all we can do is drive it around in the parking lot. We ain't got no grass to mow or nothing. And I thought, well, okay. Well, she said, you might as well just come get it, because there ain't nothing, there's nothing they can do about it. And I thought, okay, so I'm stuck with a machine that's obviously got some sort of overheating problem or some type of a hydraulic problem, and they're not interested in helping me with it. Somebody in the dealership gave me another number to call, a sales representative, because I told them that I would be interested in trading it for a 1211. If they would help me out with it, help me out on the trade, and so I wouldn't lose so much money on the trade. But they gave me the number of this sales representative. He said, "Oh, well, we can't do anything about it unless they determine the machine is defective," and they hadn't done that. Well, the service manager is not going to determine it defective because she's just saying they ain't got time to run it 20 minutes. I mean, they ain't got time. That's all they would run it 20 minutes. They ain't got time to run it an hour and a half, which is how long it takes to overheat. So, you know, what am I supposed to do? I have to run the thing an hour, over 2 hours to mow my yard. I can't stop every 20 minutes or I would never get done. And this ain't the only yard I mow that takes over 2 hours to mow. So, you know, I was just getting frustrated with them, and they didn't really seem to care. They told me they were busy and didn't have time to, basically just didn't have time for it. So, what am I supposed to do? I need a lawnmower. I got customers that I mow yards for. It's not many, 3 or 4, but still, I got to get them mowed. I was borrowing a lawnmower to keep my yard and customers' yards mowed. So anyway, I talked to this representative about trading it, and he said no, that they had to, you know, they wouldn't help me. So actually, I called him. That was the first time I called him. He said that they had to determine defective. Well, they determined that they could, you know, they wasn't going to help me. So I tried to call this representative back to tell him that they're not going to help me. What should I do? I want to trade it for the model that has a hydraulic oil cooler on it, so I know this problem's not here anymore. I even suggested to the service manager that they put a hydraulic cooler on my 1021, and they, no, we can't do that. So, you know, and if they could have got it fixed, I actually liked the 1021 better. It handled better. It was easier. It was smaller, and it handled more like a gas-powered mower. In my opinion, it needed a little bit more power, but other than that, you know, I was pretty content with that mower. I just wanted it to function like it was supposed to. But anyway, I tried to call this representative again for the second time after she tells me that they aren't going to help me. I wanted to see what he'd say about that. Well, he wouldn't answer his phone no more. Because he knew my number by now, because I called him one time, and he wouldn't answer his phone. I left him 2 different messages, explained to him what was going on, and I would like some help trading the mower up, and he wouldn't ever call me back. I ended up trading the mower anyway, because I went to a couple different places. They didn't want to give me anything for the 1021. I was going to trade for a John Deere. The John Deere mower cost the same as the 1211 did, and it was a gas mower. They wanted $13,500 for the John Deere. I think it was a 960R. I think that was the number. But anyway, it was a gas powered mower and 60-inch cut, and I was going to lose more money than if I just traded for Kubota. Kubota offered to trade with me for $4,400. What I wanted to trade for was $3,000. There was $2,000 difference in brand new machines. My 1021 versus the 1211, there was $2,000 difference in them brand new. And then I thought, I put 81 hours on the 1021. I thought that $1,000 would have been more than enough to cover the 81 hours that I put on it. And in my opinion, it was a defective machine. I don't know if it was just my machine that was defective, or if it was all the 1021s. I'm sure some people may have the 1021s and are happy with them, but I was not. Every time I run it, the hydraulics would overheat. So I ended up trading for $4,400 for the 1211. Reluctantly, I didn't want to get another Kubota because I knew that the service department was not going to help me if I had trouble with this one. I mean, I'm sure they would help me if it was something simple that they could fix easy, but you know, that was going to take a little time. They was going to probably have to take it somewhere and put somebody on it and mow some grass, surely to God they know somebody or somewhere they could mow some grass for an hour and a half. I mean, they could, I mean, take the thing home. I don't care. Take the thing home. Mow your own yard with it. I mean, I didn't care what they just needed to run it so they could get it hot. But they wouldn't do it. But anyway, that's beside the point. I went down there and I traded for $4,400. It ended up, time, tax, and everything, it was $5,300 or something. I think they overcharged me tax because I was thinking in North Carolina, I know if you trade a car in North Carolina, you only have to pay the tax on the difference between the vehicles, not the whole price of the machine. They charged me tax for the whole price of the new mower. The new mower was $13,900. They charged me taxes on the whole $13,000 instead of the difference between what they gave me for my old mower and the new mower. But anyway, that's beside the point too. And you can't, lawnmowers aren't tax exempt like tractors are. So I had to pay the taxes on it. But anyway, I've got the 1211. That's the long-winded story about it. The reason I have the 1211. The 1211 is alright. The tractor part's alright. The mowing deck on this thing is just like the mowing deck on, and I knew it would be. It's just like the mowing deck on the 1021 I had. It mows like crap. It is the ACS 60 mowing deck. Only difference is it's got the caster wheels on it, and that's it. You can make these decks mow better by pulling the baffle out, and I'm getting ready to change blades on it. One of my viewers suggested these blades I'm getting ready to put on it, so I'm going to put these blades on it, and I'm going to show you something else that I did under this deck that it seems to help. So the next video that I put up about this mower will be about putting the blades on, and I'm going to show you what else I did under there. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you're a Kubota fan, sorry, Kubota has burnt me out because of their lack of help. I don't dislike Kubota equipment, but I do dislike how my dealer treated me. They should have been, a little more helpful with my mower, or at least gave me a better deal on trading mowers. But whatever, it is what it is, and it is, it's over now. So all right, we'll talk to y'all later.